Levites had then told had gathered Israel and told Israel about it and asked them what they were going to do. Well, they decided to go up against Benjamin, all of Israel. Select 21. I'm doing a recap over chapters 19 and 20 right now. We're going to start in chapter 21 here in a moment. Um, so in chapter 20, they had Israel went to war with Benjamin. Benjamin won 2 battles, but Israel turned around and won the war. They sought God, they fasted and prayed, and they found favor in the eyes of the Lord over Benjamin. One, because Benjamin was into idolatries, which the Word of God says in Deuteronomy and Leviticus is devil worship. Idol- Worshiping false gods. It's a deception. Satan gets you to basically worship devils in disguise. That's his trick, and offering for power, or which is false power, but basically offering you things that you never get in return. It's trickery. Well, they had fallen so far. Benjamin had fallen into that, um, and they went. So that's why Israel had found favor with God. They were not into idolatries, but um, no, Dan was. They hadn't committed the act of lewdness or folly that Benjamin had. They hadn't went as Benjamin uh, had. If they had not been stopped, they would have committed the same act that Sodom had committed, and God wiped out Sodom. Um, but they were in a sense they were in very deep. They were in a very dark place, and Israel had fasted and prayed. They were sad that they had to go up against their brothers. We'll soon see in 21. But in the Old Testament especially, if certain acts were committed, there had to be something done about it. Well, um, we're also going to see that there's no king in these days. There's no person to enforce these laws. And there was no judge raised up. The last judge was Samson, and he died killing the Philistines when he pulled the pillars in. So we're starting off in chapter 21 where there's no judge and no king. So it's left up to Israel to essentially step in and enforce the law of God against Benjamin. Now they also fasted and prayed, which is when you're. One way Samson put it was, "Let me be more blameless than the Philistines." To be more blameless is an old way to say, "Let me find more favor in your eyes, Lord, than with them." Back in the Old Testament, it often meant in battle. Nowadays, an example for us nowadays would be if we got a job that we prayed for over the over somebody else who didn't get the job. God can give you favor for praying and seeking Him. Also, if someone has favor with God, you want to stay out of their way. You want God to take you. Like if someone's raised up like Samson was, he was a judge. You want God to deal with that person. Um, the word so they had went up, they had found favor, and they were equals, Israel and Benjamin. So they found favor by fasting and prayer and by getting away from the idolatry. uh, God then delivered the tribe of Benjamin into the hands of the other 11 tribes. Now, they did this. God gave them. They did this with a certain strategy that God had given them. God is the God over strategy. Is the God. He's the most powerful God. He can do all things. When Moses left Egypt, there was a pillar of fire that came down between the children of God and the Egyptians while they crossed the Red Sea. God is able to do anything and everything. He is all powerful and almighty. In this case, he gave them a specific winning strategy. He's also the ultimate strategist. God had Israel set liars in wait to ambush the Benjaminites when they came out of Gilead to attack Israel. And that's what happened. They snuck into the city, they overtook the city, they burned the city with fire, and that was a sign to Israel that they were ambushed and they were being basically um, attacked from behind. That scared Benjamin. Benjamin fled into the wilderness where they were almost wiped out. They had fled to the rock Rimmon, which uh, there were only about 600 of them left, and they were there for a while. They were there for 4 months. And then chapter 21 gets into what happens to the other 600. Israel, we're about to find out, Israel, of course, is feeling remorseful for having almost wiped out their brethren. So, knowing that, we're going to start on chapter 21, verse 1. Now, the men of Israel had sworn in Mizpah, saying, there shall not any of us give his daughter unto Benjamin to wife. And the people to the house of God abode there till even before God, and lifted up their voices and wept sore, and said, O Lord God of Israel, why is this come to pass in Israel, that there should be today one tribe lacking in Israel? And it came to pass on the morrow that the people rose early and built an altar and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings. And the children of Israel said, who is there among all the tribes of Israel that came not up with the congregation unto the Lord? For they had made a great oath concerning him, that they came not to the Lord in Mizpah, saying, he shall surely be put to death. Now, and we're going to unpack that here for a second. They made a great vow, or great oath. Numbers chapter 30 says if anyone talks about anyone making a vow or swearing an oath, that they're inevitably that the law of the vow applies to them, and what the law of the vow is. That's in Numbers chapter 30, and Numbers chapter 6 is specifically the law of the Nazarite, a specific vow. Now, in Judges chapter 11, I believe wasn't Jotham, it was Jephthah. Chapter 11, Jephthah had made a vow that if God would deliver the enemy into his hands, he would sacrifice the first thing that came out of his house when he got home, and it was his only daughter, his only child, his daughter. So he had to offer her as a burnt sacrifice unto God. The book of Numbers specifically says, uh, especially with the law of the Nazarite, with certain vows, if you break the vow, you die or you are committed to death. Um, that is why. That's why the concept of the oath is brought up. They are looking for children, not children. The children of Israel. They're looking for wives, not out of the children of Israel or the tribes, but they're looking for wives out of because they swore an oath saying they can't have our wives for the other 600 Benjaminites that were left. But they were saying, so what can we do for the wives for the people that have no for Benjamin? Because we wiped out their wives too. They they wiped out all but 600 men in the battle. Now, in breaking an oath was considered lying to God, and in Acts chapter 5, Ananias and Sapphira had died because they not only lied to God, they didn't lie to man, they lied to God. So that's kind of goes along with the concept of the vow and what we're saying here, that it was serious because in a vow you made a vow before God, and if you broke the vow, you were lying to Him, which is often why the consequence was death. It was put in the same category as punishable as equally as idolatry was. They were asking this because again they're going to find wives for the Benjaminites to marry. Uh, and they vowed a vow saying whoever did not follow them into battle would be put to death. So it was a vow of their life. And the children, in verse 6, and the children of Israel repented them from Benjamin, their brother, and said, there is one tribe cut off from Israel this day. Verse 7, how shall we do for wives for them that remain, seeing we have sworn by the Lord that we will not give them of our daughters to wives? Now, Jesus said in the New Testament not to swear. This isn't the same thing as saying, well, I swear this or I swear that. We're not swearing upon something. It's swear here means committing an oath or vowing. That's what they were doing. They had made a vow that again they would not give their daughters to wives. And they said, was there one of the tribes in Israel, verse 8, and they said, was one is what one is there of the tribes of Israel that came not up to Mizpah to the Lord? And behold, there came none to the camp from Jabesh Gilead to the assembly. For the people were numbered, and behold, there were none of the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead there. And the congregation sent thither 12,000 men of the valiantest, and commanded them, saying, go and smite the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, with the women and children. And this is the thing that ye shall do. Ye shall utterly destroy every male and every woman that hath laid by man. And they found among them the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead 400 young virgins that had known no man by lying with any male. And so they brought them unto the camp of Shiloh, which is in the land of Canaan. So they're saying we vowed we can't give them wives because we vowed not to. Where else? How are we going to find them wives? Well, they found somebody who had broken their vow, and the consequence again was for the breaking this vow was death. Well, it was a here's the difference. Benjamin was almost wiped out, and they were sorry about that. Yet they wiped out Jabesh Gilead. Well, Jabesh Gilead, again, the consequences were different. Not only did they break the vow that they had made, not gone into battle, but at the same time, um, Jabesh Gilead was a village among a tribe. It wasn't an entire tribe. Later, they mention about how God made a breach in the tribes, and that's one thing that had gotten to their hearts. uh, Verse 13, and the whole congregation sent some to speak to the children of Benjamin that were in the rock Rimmon, and to call peaceably unto them. And Benjamin came again at that time, and they gave them wives which they had saved alive of the women of Jabesh Gilead, and yet so they sufficed them not. That doesn't mean they weren't satisfied. Sufficed here means not enough. So there were 600 survivors. They had found 400 wives for them. One, of course, one wife each. So they didn't have enough for everyone to have a wife. There weren't enough people, enough women there. Then the elders of the congregation said, how shall we do for wives for them that remain, seeing the women are destroyed out of Benjamin? And they said, there must be an inheritance for them that escaped of Benjamin, that a tribe be not destroyed out of Israel. How but how might how may not how that we may not give them wives of our daughters, for the children of Israel had sworn, saying, cursed be that he that giveth a wife to Benjamin. So in this case, specifically, this vow didn't come with a punishment of death, but they would have lived a cursed life, a life full of sin, and in inevitably would have died in sin. So they didn't want that either. They were trying to keep their vow. Verse 19, and they said, behold, there is a feast of the Lord in Shiloh yearly, in the place where is on the north side of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goeth up to Bethel to Shechem, on the south of Lebonah. There they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, go and lie in the vineyards, and see, and behold, if the daughters of Shiloh come out to dance in dances. Then come ye out of the vineyards, and catch you every man his wife to the daughters of Shiloh, and go to the land of Benjamin. And it shall be when their fathers or their brethren come up unto us to complain, that we will say unto them, be favorable unto them for our sakes, because we reserved not to each man his wife in the war. For ye did not give unto them at this time that ye should be guilty. And the children of Benjamin did so, and took them wives according to the number of them that danced, whom they caught. And they went and returned unto their inheritance, and repaired the cities, and dwelt in them. So the rest of them, excuse me, the other 200 of Benjamin that were left were given wives from them that danced dances outside of Shiloh. And they went back to the tribe of Benjamin to begin repairing their cities and basically healing from the destruction. And the children of Israel departed thence at that time, every man to his tribe, to his family, and they went out from thence, every man to his inheritance. Oh, it was verse 15. Benjamin, and the people repented them for Benjamin, because that the Lord had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. Breach there means a broken. Israel was no longer whole. They, considering Jesus saying the whole body of Christ, if better to cut off a member than to lose one, or better to cut off a member if it offends you, then the whole body should perish. Well, this is an example of that. They essentially cut off, well, almost completely cut off a member of the tribes of Israel, one of their tribes. And because of that, the 12 tribes were not whole. They were not one. They were not. They were not. They all felt the grief, and then Benjamin, of course, most of them were put to death. So now this is Benjamin giving wives back to them so they can not only repair their cities but heal and recover and re-strengthen the tribe of Benjamin after this. So God still kept his promise in the book of Revelations of letting so many of each tribe enter into heaven. That's why God allowed this, is so that he could keep his promise to Benjamin as the other tribes. They didn't get completely wiped out, but it did. Well, when you lose a member, you basically you can feel it. You can feel the loss. It affects everyone, and it did affect Israel pretty bad. They were heartbroken over that their brethren had had almost been wiped out. Verse 25 is the last verse, and I'm going to make another point in closing. And those days, verse 25, in those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. It was the king in chapter 8, verse 23. Gideon says, I will not rule over you, but the Lord shall have rule over you. The Israelites insisted they wanted Gideon to rule over them, as not as a judge, but basically to be their ruler. Later on, the people of God insisted on having a ruler to Samuel, and God answered their prayer and gave them a king. Well, here Gideon's saying, I'm not going to rule over you. Let God do that. God had appointed judges. The judge's job wasn't to rule. Only a king, when a king gave a command, it was law and you had to obey it. When a judge couldn't give you a command on how to live. The main purpose of the judge is not just to pass sentence, but really it was to rescue, in this case, it was to rescue the children of God out of the hands of idolaters. That through them and the grace of God, the Israelites would be judged. Uh, well, in a how do I say this? That the Israelites would be judged not worthy of death, but worthy to live. Um, that is the and so and that and the king enforced the laws. Kings went against idolaters. If someone needed punished, they enacted the punishment. Uh, judges, well, the judges rose up against the idolaters to deliver them. But again, this is why Israel had to fight Benjamin, is because there was nobody delivered up, there was nobody raised up, there was no one chosen at this time to enforce the laws of God. So Israel, seeing the gravity of how severe what Benjamin did, they had to stand up and do something about it. They had to enforce the law of God themselves. But and again, later on in the age, in the time of the king, it was different. The king did all that. All right, that is verse 21. That is it for the book of Judges. Uh, did anybody have any questions on Judges? Okay, everybody heads bowed and eyes closed. Okay. Dear Lord Jesus, we come before in prayer, oh God. We want to thank you for giving Mom another year, oh God. We want to pray you bless the cake we're about to receive. Let it be